History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism until...
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
I don't like the idea of Black History Month because it gives 1 month where we're allowed to speak about black issues and stuff like that. And then when it ends, it's like, okay, cool, back to business as normal. Black history is history, regardless. Western civilization wouldn't be where it is right now without black people.
So answer me this. Why will white people throw it in front of me every time they try to insulate themselves with the whole, well, y'all have a Black History Month, right? Cool. Now, fuck that Black History Month. Why don't you teach black history in the schools? Real black history. Why don't we try that? Y'all want to scream out about Black History Month and keep putting the same 2 people up there, Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman, well, 3 people. Why aren't we learning about real American history? Oh, because if y'all taught our real history, you'd have to also teach the part you played in it. I mean, let's be real. The reason y'all have a problem with the critical race theory is because it's not that you don't want your children to find out that you're racist. You don't want them to find out that there's another way, that they don't have to be racist, and that they should not even like you. And quit trying to throw out that Juneteenth shit like that's an actual accomplishment. Juneteenth ain't shit but a reminder that y'all motherfuckers still could not let go. Because Texas would lie to the slaves that were there and didn't tell them they were free. And then y'all even had a problem with that. Y'all didn't want the world to know about Texas not letting them go. Lying to them, deceiving them like they did with everything else. Like all the rest of y'all did with everything else. So quit lying like y'all give a fuck about us. Quit lying. Like that's all y'all gotta do is stop lying. Have some balls, tell the truth, and quit lying. I ain't gonna lie, it was irritating at first because it seemed like a lot of us was falling for that shit. Like, Juneteenth is a pointless ass holiday. If that's the case, we might as well have a Black Wall Street holiday. Might as well have a Princeton holiday. Might as well have a KKK branch of Harvard holiday. Might as well have a holiday for every massacre that ever happened. Every run that Harriet had to make because y'all some nasty, deceitful, devilish ass motherfuckers. But no, the 4th of July ain't even for black people. But that's why y'all allowed Juneteenth in the first place, to try to settle everybody down. After all of that fighting in 2020, that's basically all y'all gave. All of those marches, that's basically all y'all gave. Y'all been slid some money over to some motherfuckers and gave us Juneteenth. A reason to barbecue. So that way you can claim you filled your quota and did justice for the black people during your term. Like, how long did y'all really expect us to be asleep? So no, I don't give a fuck about Black History Month or Juneteenth. So stop trying to insulate yourself when I'm coming at you about something.
See the 3 clips I just played before. It's Morgan Freeman and 2 gentlemen expressing their views about Black history. Mike Wallace asked, the interviewer asked Morgan Freeman, his views on Black history. I don't like Black history. I should celebrate Black. Why is my history relegated to a month? I always thought that clip was crazy. So I get to elaborate on it today. That's why we're here for Breakdown Friday. But we're also going to elaborate on a whole lot of things. And you know how we do. We get into it and we get funky and we get critical thinking on this. So, PC, man, you were shaking your head, man. Man, let's go ahead and get into it. Like, what do you think about what the gentleman was saying about their views on the celebration of Black history, or even the existence of Black history?
When I hear stuff like that, I think about the fact of people understanding the relevancy to power and how power, utilizes itself. When you talk about the power to, not having the power to teach your own history, because that's what they basically are speaking to, then basically they're still seeking, as rebellious as they are, they're still speaking to yielding to a white power structure. I mean, the history is in our hands. We know it. If it's those of us who know it, who claim we know it, then we need to start, teaching it to our children. We need to not be afraid to be the ones to actually put it in front of us. The concept around Black History Month, it really speaks to the fact that no matter how you look, and I know there's a certain aesthetic to people who identify as being conscious and so forth, the way they look, the way they dress, the way they do their hair and so forth. It just speaks to the fact that nobody has ever researched and seen who actually started Black History Month. Because Black History Month was given to us. Black History Month started off as Negro History Week in 1926, and it was actually created by a group of brothers, Carter G. Woodson, Dr. Carter G. Woodson being one of them, to make it a national, pastime. And so February wasn't chosen, and I don't know how many times we got to say this. February wasn't chosen because it's the shortest month. Right. It was chosen because it was relegated to, at the particular time, the two most important figures in that particular time that had anything to do with the emancipation of Black people. Right. Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. I have my opinions on, my views on both, but the bottom line is that's something that we did.
Carter G. Woodson, right, and his friends.
Right. His fraternity brothers used to have, Negro History Week at Chicago University, from like 1924, and then 1926, they decided to make it a national thing, and the purpose of it was to make sure that it was a focus on the contributions of Black people, not just nationally, but internationally, globally, in terms of modern society. So, and it wasn't done to just only use that particular week or what became that particular month to celebrate, to idolize Black people. It was done to show, okay, now that we can put the spotlight on this, now let's take this information and spread it amongst our people
and run with it.
Right. So just that concept alone. And I go to the Morgan Freeman clip when he talks about just stop talking about it. Like, that is a very arrogant stance to take from somebody that's in the bourgeoisie, because you can just don't talk about racism on a personal level, but racism is more impactful. It has, it impacts the nation of people you represent. So to just not talk about it, but what's the current state of Black people in the world and in America? What's the current state of African people in the world and those who identify as African in America? That is that's the crux of addressing this whole notion of racism. It's addressing the fact that Black people, their boundaries that have been put in place to stop Black people from accumulating wealth, from accumulating resources, and accumulating power. And if you just want to pretend, then that means you're perfectly fine with assimilating into a culture that's made its whole life about making yours genocidal. So, I mean, there's more I could talk about. But I'm gonna let
you already know we coming back. We already know we coming back to it, because I got a place I'm going to take it after we let Pat go. But just to add on to what you're saying about Carter G. Woodson creating Negro History Week, which eventually became Black History Month. He also created the Negro History Bulletin. Mm-hmm. And he created the Negro History Bulletin to help get Black history out, to push the concept of Negro History Week, so we could put an emphasis and a focus on learning our own history in a country where we see that our oppressors are not teaching us our history. And that's one of the things, like the last video, the gentleman, I disagree with their angle on it, because they're angry that white people don't take Black history serious.
But Negro, do you take it seriously?
That's a waste of energy. That's a waste of energy. But we're gonna get to that. I just want to put that out, but we're gonna get that. But it's a waste of energy. That's crazy to me. So, but before I get into that, Pat, what's your overall thoughts on these clips?
I think they all tie in quite nicely without even realizing it.
Right.
Because the logic of Morgan Freeman is exactly why Black History Month was created and exactly why Black History Month is what it is. It's just like a time traveling, because you think about it, Morgan Freeman doesn't want you to acknowledge the Black part of him, which is a very like apathetic type statement, right? Like it's a very silly statement. There's a lot of things wrong with that statement, but out of respect for my older, I'm gonna keep it to myself. But that's also a statement you hear from people. Like, let me say it to the older like this. That sentiment only works when there isn't a problem. If there isn't a problem, you cannot talk about a problem and not have a problem. There ain't no problem. If you got a problem and you don't talk about the problem, now we got other issues. You can't name me a single problem that goes away by not addressing it. So there's that. But then you get into, okay, so that's the thinking of a lot of the old heads, right? People get old for whatever reason, especially the ones with money. That's the thinking of a lot of them, right? White people agree with you. I don't want to talk about Negro history. I agree with that, Morgan Freeman. That's a solid Negro right there. He's good, upstanding. He's one of the different ones. So this is what we'll do. We had those uppity Negroes in the past. They created a whole month for these Negroes. So this is what we'll do. Every month, every week of that month, it's only 4 weeks, we'll give them a new Negro. And they made a deal. They said every week we're gonna give them so we give them Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and George Washington Carver or Frederick Douglass. Like you can mix in that fourth, right?
Yeah, Carver get put in there every now and then.
Yeah. You can mix them in, right? This is how we keep the Negroes confused. Every once in a while, we give them a name we ain't gave them in a while, right? So from there, right, we take it, we cooking, and what was supposed to happen was every year they were supposed to come up with a new set of four, a new majestic four, a new fantastic four. But after the first one, they was like, fuck them niggas, they don't care. And so it just stayed there. And so now you got Buddy here over here talking. And of course, y'all, I'm being facetious. I don't know that any of this is true. I'm just being as silly as Morgan Freeman was being. But then you got other Buddy over here. What did he say? Without Black history, there'd be no Western civilization. What Black history do you know that can verify that? I'm not saying you wrong or right, but I'm saying you saying ain't nobody learning Black history. So who taught you enough where you can make that statement? So then we get to the last brother who went on this wonderful soliloquies talking about all of these fantastic points and missing the whole point that you've centered this whole conversation on whiteness. Like PC said, you grounded your whole argument. So let me get this right. You talking about Black history, and instead of centering the Blackness of history, you center white people's view of the Blackness of the history.
Crazy,
that is
right?
Amazing, brother. Like that is, and it goes back, all of it in my mind goes back to Morgan Freeman. I'm gonna stop calling you a white man, and you stop calling me a Black man, and we could just learn. Like all of those to me are different spaces on that same paradigm, on that same statement, that same spectrum of let's not acknowledge it. You're mad that they don't acknowledge it while you yourself are refusing to acknowledge it. You're mad that they don't acknowledge it while refusing to acknowledge the people that acknowledged it enough so that you could acknowledge it. And you're just not even acknowledging it at all.
Hey, that's how problems go away.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, so, bro, I had a torn ACL when I was playing football, right? And so I just sat on the ground and told myself, what ACL? What injury? And even though like I was limping at first, and then when I really believed that I wasn't injured, I stopped limping. And boy, I mean, I went out there that game because I tore my ACL in the first quarter, and I went out there in the game and I had 400. I had 4 catches, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, a high school record. And then, but when I woke up from that dream, I realized that,
Martin Luther King had a dream too.
but then the reality of his dream.
Well, Joe, but you just didn't believe hard enough, because I know plenty of men who are in sexless marriages and they don't say nothing and they problem go away. I mean, they still in sexless marriages, but they, it's not a problem no more.
Hey man, so the moral of the story is if you got a problem, ignore it because it'll go away.
That's what Morgan
According
Freeman
to
said.
what the Morganism is. We're gonna call them Morganisms.
Hey, Morgan played God twice.
Why did he make
so you see where I'm going with this, bro? See, that's why I mess with y'all, because we be in what's the PC sign? We cooking in this piece, right? Yeah, man. But now so I chose these videos based off of a conversation that I had with some college students who basically informed me that they don't really care about Black history. And the reason they don't really care about Black history is because it's not taught. And they like generations before them are tired of learning about the same 4 people. So the cycle continues because we get it.
Amazing circular logic.
We get it. We get it because we've been there. But that's the thing, because we only learn about the same 4, we don't really like learning Black history. Now, I'm not saying that that's a great number of youth, but I am saying
I am
a number of youth that I've talked to personally.
It ain't just
college
students. The ignorance is generations deep.
Well, and it's built off of statements like these gentlemen were making.
We just talked about Morgan Freeman. As Patrick correctly referred to him, this older is in his 80s.
Yeah. So. I mean, the idea, first of all, like they said, if you as a Black person relegate Black History Month to February, that's your fault. Nowhere, first of all, there ain't no Black History manual that says you should only celebrate Black History 28 days.
That's what the white people said, Joe. There is a manual.
Well, if you're gonna follow the white people manual, then I can't help you. That's why you on TikTok making long videos about white people not liking Black history the way you want them to, right? But I always say use February to charge up yourself for the rest of the year. We use February to celebrate Black history significantly, but nothing is stopping you from celebrating Black history or even learning Black history at any point during the year. Who's making you not do it as a Black person? Who's stopping you from doing it as a Black person? Who's hindering you from doing it as a Black person? And another thing, we talked about this before, but the excuse that we can't learn Black history because they don't want to teach it in schools. I'm in Florida. We're going through it with old Ronnie down here, and a lot of people are using the fact that Ron DeSantis don't want Black history taught in schools. They're using that as an excuse for us to not learn Black history, for Black history to not be taught at all, as if it's not our obligation to teach our history, right? And so once again, you got more and more videos like these being put out of people giving their negative opinions and negative views on Black history based off of how white people perceive Black history, as if it's white people's obligation to care about our history the way we should. That's insane. That's insane for you to be upset that the people who oppressed you and did not teach you your history on purpose won't teach you your history.
Hold on, Joe. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. You said, but also the fact, like you said, emphasizing on the fact that any Black person in 2024 who got a smartphone in their hand, who believes that white people gave us
Black History Month and gave us the shortest month. If you still believe that in 2024, your intelligence is past being in question. Your intelligence is lacking.